What up guys, Cole here, and in this video what we're going to talk about is why we do not use what's called incentive-based pricing. Now, if you don't know what incentive-based pricing is, it's basically where you have a pricing model that incentivizes them financially to make a decision now on that very call. So you might say something like, hey, the price is typically $3,500 a month, but if you move forward today and you make a decision now or within a certain time window, it's actually only $2,500 a month, so you get a $1,000 discount. Or another one that's very typical is, you know, the investment's normally $15K, but if you move forward now, it's just $10K, okay? So that's what's called a financial incentive-based pricing model. I'm gonna tell you why we do not use that and actually how we create urgency with the prospect in the sales process instead, and how we do that in a much more cool, non-pressury way. So it does create urgency, but it doesn't feel like pressure to the client. And I'm also going to tell you about my own experience doing fast action discounts and incentive-based pricing, because actually when I started in sales, I used that as a crutch. It was what I used all the time. It was what was taught in our sales team. So I'm going to tell you my experience of it, the scripting we were using before, how I got away from it, why I got away from it, and then also I'm gonna give you the exact scripting, the exact words to say of what we use now without the incentive-based pricing whatsoever, and how actually we close at a higher percentage and people actually are more likely without the incentive to move forward on the very first call. So I'm gonna switch over to some Google Doc that has all of the scripting now. Comment scripting below if you want that document, and let's get this going.
Hey guys, so why we ditched the fast action discount, or most commonly referred to as incentive-based pricing. So what we are going to cover is what is incentive-based pricing, what is the fast action discount, what are the downfalls of this and why we ditched it. I'm going to tell you my story about using this. I actually started off using this and then eventually got away from it, took all my sales teams away from it as well. And then I'm going to tell you what we do instead, which is like dead simple, and it's going to be pretty cool. So what is incentive-based pricing? Well, incentive-based pricing, also referred to as a fast action discount, a scholarship. It's just basically when you utilize a one-time discount to incentivize the prospect to buy on the actual sales call. Okay, so here's some example scripting, right? If this is the salesperson, they might say something like this. And this is actually, if you're going to do it, would be a halfway decent way to frame it. But salesperson would say something like this. So in order to get your business to 20K a month, ultimately 240K a year, the investment is just 15K. Now, what we found to be true is that prospects who get to this point in the call and they know in their gut that this is exactly what they need to get to the next level, those people who have that feeling right now are usually always the best clients for us. Plus, simply without everybody reaching out to our company, we're just not in a position right now where we have the time nor the bandwidth to just tirely follow up and track down everybody until they're ready. That's just kind of where we're at as a company. So we incentivize that action-taking behavior, and the way we do that is by lowering the price to 10K if you enroll today, and you can break that into 10K into 2 payments of 5. Or if you want to slap it on a credit card and take care of it all at once, you can also do it in one payment of 9K, which gives you an additional 1K discount. So basically, it's either 15K normally, but today, if you move forward now, it's 2 payments of 5 or 1 payment of 9. So which of those 2 options works best for you, and how can I support you, right? So that's like word for word when I started my first sales job, what I used to say. And I think that's so funny because, some people would read that and they think it sounds pretty good. I can't even like say that with a straight face because I just think it's so tacky and cheesy. But we used to use this, and there's big coaching programs out there that still teach this, literally almost word for word probably. And a lot of people still use it. And I'm going to tell you the downfalls and why we ditched it. So, like I just said, first offer I ever sold utilized this type of pricing. And this was also an offer where, the managers and the company, all good people, but they had no flexibility on the sales process whatsoever. So they were not going to get rid of this. And look, it did to an extent work. Right? I mean, there was some super fear-driven prospects that this did help them get them across the line, and I still closed a pretty good rate on this offer. But the question is it optimal? And I found once I ditched it and went to this new pricing model, which I'm going to cover with you in a second, not only did I experience a way better closing ratio, but I also felt more authentic and less slimy. which in turn, because I was more congruent, more aligned, helped me experience a better closing ratio. So it was kind of a little bit of a positive feedback loop there. And just on what I said earlier too, the fast action discount in terms of getting those scared, fearful prospects across the line, what I learned how to do is instead of using external pressure, which is external reasons why the prospect has to buy now, what I was able to develop is internal pressure to where they wanted to move now for their own reasons, not because the price changes tomorrow type of reasons. Nobody wants to be backed into a corner like that. So here's some of the downfalls and ultimately why I ditched the FAD, the incentive-based pricing, fast action discount, whatever you want to call it. So number one, lack of authenticity and alignment. And I don't think I'm the only person who probably feels this way, but for most people, it just feels inauthentic. Like it's kind of salesy. They don't like doing it. It really doesn't seem like, it doesn't seem like there's a real reason why you're doing it. You're just trying to do it to get them to make a decision. And the prospect just picks up on that and it breaks trust. Okay? So that's the number one thing. And I think if anything, there is probably 5% of people who do this, who do feel really good about it and they totally believe in it. They stick to their integrity on it. And if you're one of those people, good for you. If you're not one of those people, ditching it alone just because it feels out of alignment to you will help your closing rate. Because if you're out of alignment, you're not congruent, it's just going to break the trust, like I was just saying, and it's going to make you're so much more likely to lose the sale just because you're using something that's not totally aligned with your beliefs. Now, even if you are totally aligned with the fast action discount, there's so many more reasons why. As you get better in sales, you're going to want to remove that. It's kind of like training wheels. You're going to want to remove that so you can go faster. The second reason is it eliminates behavioral flexibility at the close. So I'll repeat that. It eliminates behavioral flexibility at the close. So what do I even mean by that? So while there is certainly people who are ready to one call close, there is going to be a portion of your market, and I'm going to say this is like 20 to 30% of people for sure, if not sometimes 50%, depending on your market, that purely for logistical reasons need like 24 hours up to a week, right? And when I say logistical reasons, I mean that like they do genuinely really want to do it. It's just a matter of, I have some examples here. It's a matter of like legitimately moving money around. Like they have it in a Vanguard or Fidelity account, it takes 3 days, right? Or there's a massive, for them it's a massive investment. And like it does make sense for them to talk to their spouse. Or there's a business partner who's not on the call and it like does make sense before they use the company card to talk to the partner. Okay, or there's like a logistical outstanding event that's going to determine if they can do the program or not. So this is very common, but somebody's buying a house. A lot of times they can't have big transactions. Same thing if they're selling a business. Maybe they're burned before. They just want to sleep on it. There's all these different things. Okay, and I will talk about deposits in a second because if you're a fast action discount proponent, you're like, well, we can just take a deposit. Well, we'll talk about that. But there's all these reasons why, like, there's a lot of reasons why somebody can't decide right that second, And in all these situations, you kind of put yourself in a corner. I mean, well, for one, the pricing is kind of putting the prospect in the corner, but it's also putting you in a corner because logistically, it could actually be the best for the prospect to 2-call close or 1-call close with a follow-up, or for you to take a deposit. That can be a valid solution, but you're kind of stuck. Like you don't want to go against your word and say, if you just said 10 seconds ago that this discount's only available if you move forward now, and then now you're throwing in, well, but we could save it with a deposit, or we can extend it for 24 hours or 72. Now it's like you're not. That just seems so salesy, and to me that's totally breaking trust, right? So look, you could take a deposit to hold it in. That is probably the best way around these types of things. But even with that, some people are going to feel kind of icky about the deposit, especially depending on what their relationship is with their spouse. Like these types of things, they might not even be able to do a deposit for a couple of days. It just is all some of that stuff where it kind of feels icky. Now, we still do deposits, but it's kind of a case by case, more masculine energy, more somebody who's super direct. They're like all in, 100%. We'll do a deposit, but if it is a little bit more of a feminine energy or they just need to feel good about it, maybe they were burned before, we're not going to do that. So if you want to get more into that, I mean, you can talk to us about sales training. We have all sorts of trainings on forcing, delaying, taking deposits, not taking deposits, all that stuff. The next reason we ditched the incentive-based pricing is sophisticated. I mean, really not just sophisticated. Pretty much all prospects hate it, but especially sophisticated prospects hate it. And to me, it's like poor form, to be honest. If you sell to beginners who are starting a business, or if you sell dating, you sell fitness, then incentive-based pricing can work. I still don't think it's optimal, but it's not as detrimental to your sales, in my opinion, in those markets. And that's mainly because the prospect isn't used to the high-ticket sales process. Like, they haven't been through processes like these again and again and again. But if you sell B2B, prospects, like, after they hear it one time, they're tired of it. Nobody wants to feel like they're backed into a corner. And candidly, like, I believe any company who's desperate enough to need the money, like, right this second, is kind of signaling not to trust them. And the way I look at it too is like a sales professional and somebody who runs a sales consulting, sales training, sales recruiting business. Like, to me, nobody who's a true black belt in sales and very confident with their product, their offer, their sales process, and all of those things need to use shit like this. Like, it's just kind of bull crap, to be honest. And especially when, in my mind, I know I can close better without it. Right? Because of the behavioral flexibility and some of the things we talked about earlier. So to me, it just is kind of like signaling that you're a beginner salesperson. You're not confident in your sales process, your product, all of those things as well. So for all those reasons above, I mean, I put 3 reasons there. There's probably more. We ditched it. And it's important to know that not only did I and my teams, not only did we feel better about ourselves, but our closing rates went way up too. Like, I know back when I was a sales professional, still selling for different companies, I was probably closing, like 25%, which was good for the offer I was on my first company. When I left that company and went to a different company, I immediately, same sales process, almost really a very similar product, started closing like 40%. And it wasn't solely because I got rid of this, but that was definitely a good aspect of it. Because I had so much more flexibility at the close, to force, delay, do whatever I wanted to do. So what is a new way? Well, this will be a little anticlimactic because it's so simple. But the new way looks something like this. We just say, the investment is just 10K. Super complicated, I know. If we want to kind of embellish it a little bit, we might say the investment to get your business to 20K a month, ultimately 240K a year, is just 10K. Right, if those were the goals that they gave us. So I know that was so complex, but that's part of the reason I like it, is the simplicity of it, right? So why this, though? For one, no sales pressure. So for the reason above, this is actually what the prospect wants. Like, they just want to know the investment without sales pressure. The main thing is it gives us behavioral flexibility at the close. Okay, so like I said above, you're going to be able to use frameworks, and we'll talk about this more in a second, like pacing the first objection, how to handle financial objections. I have 2 other videos that talk about this in the channel, and I'll link those at the bottom. But if you use some of my objection handling frameworks and just frameworks we use after we drop the price, we're going to be able to see if the prospect's ready to buy now and we can close right now, or if we need to delay and schedule a follow-up. And I'll tell you this, follow-ups get a bad name, but if you do it correctly, in a way that maintains leadership, the prospect is always going to show up, and then you could apply a little bit more pressure and hold them accountable to buying on that follow-up call. It depends on, I'm not saying default all of your calls to follow-ups. It should be a minority of your total sales. You should still one call close most people, but you're going to get a little bump because there's going to be all these follow-ups that never were available when you're doing the fast action discount that you can close now. Okay, so again, you get more access to delaying, scheduling follow-ups, but at the same time, if you use the frameworks that I'm going to show you in a second, there's going to be 2 videos I'm going to link you, you can actually get them really tied down in the process and then start getting some committing questions in and get them to buy on that very call. Like, when I switched to this, without the fast action discount, I want to make it very clear, my one call closing ratio went way up, okay? So I was one call closing more without incentive-based pricing. Okay, I'm being serious. So it's not like, oh, okay, well, you can, if you get rid of it, you can just close more follow-ups. That's true, but you also, if you're really good and you use these frameworks I'm going to show you below, you can one call close more as well. So obviously, whenever I recommend this structure to people, the big question I always get is, well, how do I incentivize them to buy now on that call if there's no incentive, right? Well, again, remember, a fast action discount or a pricing incentive is external pressure. That's them doing it for your reasons. We want to create internal pressure to where there's massive pressure for them doing it for their own reasons. So I have a system for that, and what I want to link you, and this will be up in the, I'm going to make sure like these videos pop up as this video is going on. There's 2 main trainings. One is called 2 steps to handle any objection, and then training number 2 is how to handle the money objection. Okay, these are 2 free trainings that are really, really good, honestly, on my YouTube channel, and they're going to pop up on the screen here. I would watch this one first, this one second. After the price drop, this will tell you what to do next. So that's it for this video, guys. If you want this document, comment fast action discount below. My team will get it to you, and we'll see you in the next video.